Streaming live on YouTube.
That's what it says. And right now it looks like it's loading. On my end. All right. Well, it looks like we are live. Again, this transition is like going into a different world, but I am assuming we are live. I still don't see anything on our side, but welcome everybody or nobody or whoever's out there. This is Aeon Byte Live, episode 21. I can't believe we're still doing that, but it's been a very good success. It's an added feature to the show that has been had a lot of positive feedback from everybody. So great to see you or nobody there as everybody hopefully starts running into the chat room. Regardless, this will be recorded for YouTube, and in a couple of days I will have the audio only version out on all the other podcast channels like iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, Stitcher, all those good places, and of course at the site for members and patrons. Well, I see at least Vance has made it to the chat. Hey, Vance, how are you doing in your two forms?
No problems. Except that I was 2 hours off again. Hey, Jasmine.
Hey, Jasmine or Monica, how are you? Always glad to see you, and thanks for everything that you do for the show. And, well, our guest tonight, we'll get to it, and that is Al Sylvester, author of the first Mythology, probably one of the few last true alchemists of our time. He's been on the show twice. Had two very good interviews. In fact, as a bonus for members and patrons, I am going to add our interview we did called Jesus the Alchemist. Very popular on YouTube and iTunes, tens of thousands of listens. But I think it will be a great compliment tonight because Al has a lot of ground to cover if we can't just focus on Christianity. But before I keep going on, Al, thanks for being on Aeon Byte again.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Miguel. And I've been looking forward to this show for years and years and years, really.
Yeah,
and I mean that.
It's been a while since you've been back, but sometimes the Saturn and the scheduling archons are hard. But it's always great to have you on. As I've told you, and as I've told others, you are one of the few people who I think really gets Gnosticism. You understand the process of Sophia's fall and all that. The way you explain it is crystal clear. Very close to what the Scythians did. Your grasp on ancient religion is just good, and spirituality. So always glad to have you here. And it looks like people are starting to fill up the chat room. There's Matt, there's Statira. It is Labor Day weekend, so we shall see how things go. I think Dark Journalist is being live now, and he's got a great program. So I'm sure a lot of people who like this show are over there watching it too, but love Dark Journalist. And if you have a question for Al, when we get to the question part, please write several question marks or put it on caps. If you do a super chat, of course, you will be put at the top. I can always use the help and your support. As I've said, I am looking for funds because I'm trying to do this documentary, Gnostic Themes and Shark Boy and Lava Girl, or perhaps fund the show to do the sequel to Roadhouse, one of the great Gnostic films. But anyway, can everybody see the video? Because I'm not seeing the video from my end. Do you see the video, Vance, at all? Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's there.
I guess it's just my channel.
I see me.
Maybe if I hit play. Okay, I didn't hit play on my own YouTube channel. There you go. All right. Well, why don't we get here to the questions? Al, tell us a little bit about yourself and the thesis of your work, and then take us away. We'll talk for a little bit, and then when you're ready, we'll put on the visuals, the slides. So tell us what you discovered, this amazing earth-shattering secrets.
Well, this is about alchemy, but I first have to tell everybody it's not about the alchemy. They know everybody now today is working in a laboratory. When I started this, and I hate to say it was in 1972, I could hardly even find a book. But the books that you found had to do with Genesis, had to do with the Emerald Tablet. And the writing was about nature and to study nature. So I studied nature, and because I didn't know anybody else, like I used to call it, this is the loneliest hobby in the world because there was nobody even to talk to. So all I had was me and my books and outside, and I thought, that was the answer to alchemy, and it turns out that it is. And I'm glad that that happened, because had I got into the laboratory, I never would have found the truth of the past. Uh, what happens is all the religions of the world, they really aren't explained. People come on and talk about them, but they have no basis. Alchemy is really a 16th month long process. It's Genesis repeated. It's very, very old. It come to here with the Anunnaki, which were aliens, and maybe in part that explains why we've never been able to figure it out, because all of the things about it are of a technology that I can't read about it. And but I find it very interesting. And everywhere I go now, I can read the alchemy. I can tell you what it means. I can tell you what the religion means, what they're saying. I can say right off, Jesus was a trained alchemist from Egypt. He had the stones. There's other authors that said he taught Mary Magdalene about the all, and I'm glad that's there, because the all really is just another name for alchemy. But when you understand the process, you can explain everything about the Egyptian religion that's never been explained, and it's really pretty simple. So what I would like to do is say, okay, if you want to ask me a question, don't ask me anything about lab work, because I have no idea. It's
Wait, hold on, Al, before we go. So the audience knows, again, you and I have had 2 interviews. We've exchanged emails for years. We, of course, both enjoyed the work of Acharya, and we spoke to her. But this is a 16-month process from the ancient times, and this is what gives you immortality, right? This ancient alchemical process, as you're saying now, given by the Anunnaki, makes you into a god for all practical purposes, and it's been sort of left in coded form in all these ancient texts. Is that about it?
Yep, that's it exactly. It gets back to Genesis again, and the tree of life in the garden. And in the Bible it says that they cast Adam and Eve out of the garden, because if they had the tree of knowledge, so they knew things, and if they had the tree of the long life, then they would be like the gods. But the Anunnaki said the same thing, and I really think that they are the ones that created the flood that destroyed us. I believe they did change us. They did use us to do their work. But the way the story goes is they did save some of us. The story of Moses and the flood and so on. But for the most part, they destroyed the planet because they said if we had this medicine that they were making, we would be just like them. And they didn't want that. Uh, so I think that if they could say, well, there's going to be a flood in X number of days or months, and they were spacefaring people, they knew that something was coming, and maybe they're the ones that directed it. And again, I say that because they said they didn't want us to be like them, because they had taught some of the, I don't know how many people, how to make this medicine. They're a bunch of lazy guys. They had us doing everything. So if they just left, then we'd have the medicine, and in a, I don't know, period of time, we would be like the Anunnaki. Now, I can't prove that the alchemists lived long lives, but they wrote about it. And some of them said they lived 1,000 years. They had this medicine. And once you know the things that I know, and I still don't know it all, then you can tell if the guy's telling you the truth or not, because of what he says and how he says it. And it's also in the Bible. It was always the holy people, the holy men, the priests, the temple priests that had this information. The alchemists that we know from in Europe, like Flemel, they weren't temple priests, but they found it on their own by always, it was 20, 30, 40 years. And It was nice when they could find help. There was alchemists walking around back then. And if there are some today, I've been doing this and talking about it now for a long time. I've never met anybody that gave me a hint that they knew really what I was talking about. So what I want to do is basically go through this 16-month process because it mimics the religion of Isis and Osiris. And by knowing the steps, then you can explain everything about Isis and Osiris. And a lot of books. I'm not a writer. I'm a mechanic. This has just been my hobby. A lot of information has to be rewritten and written down because this is our past and our heritage, and people should know what it is. Plus, the things that I don't know, I think that within a few years we can figure it out as a society and have this medicine. I don't think the government would like that, but there's a lot of alchemists around the world that if they knew all of this, we sure would be able to figure it out in a short period of time. And there may be some things that people could answer right now that I don't know, but there's just a couple of things, and I'll explain that as we go along. So do you want to just start into this 16-month process?
Yeah, I guess the 16-month process. Is this coded in Genesis and other texts? Is that how you were able to find the 16-month process? I mean, like you said, if this stuff is our overlords, whatever they are, always hiding from us, then they coded it, or we had to hide it in coded form. So is this 16-month process? How did you discover it? You said, is it in Genesis? Is it the tale of Isis or Osiris? How did you come and discover this, Al?
It took
Al the alchemist.
I'll tell you, it took me 25 years to really get to where I was starting to figure things out. And there was a lot of times I threw my books in the locker and I says, I'm not going to do this. It's just nuts. Everything is a code. And after a while, it just gets to you, drives you nuts. But things would happen. I would see something and I go, aha, and I'd get back in my books and I'd find it. And it was a build type of thing. The more that you find out, then the more you read, you'll see other things. And people say, well, I've got so many books that I've read. I say, well, I've got a lot of books that I've read 10, 20, 30 times, because when you find something out, then you can go back and you'll find something else out. Because if you have no basis with what you're reading, you're just not going to understand it. And why it's like that, number one, it's all about religion. The Anunnaki brought Genesis here, according to the written records and the tablets and stuff that they found. And all our religions really based on Genesis. The other thing is the church wanted total control of the masses of the people. And with Rome, when the new Christian religion started to take over, they started destroying everything. And they also killed everybody that had any knowledge. And it's hard for me to believe, but I used to say, well, it said they killed 50 million people. And I've seen things that said they may have killed as many as 80 million people. They'd go into a village, and because the women then had the knowledge, they'd kill every woman in a village to eliminate the knowledge, maybe leave one young girl live. So it was really a bad thing. So because of that, I don't read a lot of modern books. I just try to read the old books. And how do you say it? You just have to live with it, and you'll see things. And when you see them, you'll figure them out. Now, I studied the tablets of Abraham, and they're with the tablets of Flamel. And the reason was, after a long period of time, is like, I got to have a plan to figure this out. Those two things are together, Abraham and Flamel. So I said, I can compare. So if I figure something about the one set, then the other series that's right there with it has to mean the same thing. Now, I know of between 35 and 40 series of the process, and they're written by you've heard, Isaac Newton, Sir Francis Bacon, John Dee.
Right.
Everybody in the past that was famous knew this information, and now nobody knows it. But each one, it was kind of like a game. If you wanted to tell somebody you were an alchemist, you would write down a series drawn totally different than what anybody else drew. But see, if I came along and looked at that series, I would be able to figure out what you were saying. And so I knew you and I could talk because, like I said, if you openly said anything, then you'd be in a lot of trouble with the church and they would eliminate you. So,
Yes, indeed. All right. Before we get to the visuals, so the audience understands, maybe I can ask Vance, do you understand what Al is saying? And do you have a question as idea of the alchemy being this primordial religion to make us immortal? Now you're on mute, my friend.
If I don't understand how to get off mute, I'm not sure what else I understand.
You've been silenced by the church already.
Yeah, I don't remember it clearly, but I remember a past show, I think, about the progression and so forth. So I do understand generally. I know a little bit about alchemy, but I don't have any questions at this time. I'm anxious to see the slides and so forth.
All right. Well, I think Vilmith has a question since you talk about Isis and Osiris. The body of Isis is humanity cut out into many pieces and cast in every corner of the world. Is Isis to come and give a rebirth to humanity as Osiris is reborn? Al?
That's the question.
Yes, that is the question.
As we go through, I want to quickly, if we can do that, kind of quickly go through the whole process. That's the best way to explain it, one step at a time so that you'll understand it.
Sure. And then if they have questions, we'll go.
What you have to remember is first, it's always based on what you're doing with the matter. There was no virgin birth of Osiris, just like there was no virgin birth of Adama with the Anunnaki. They were always talking about the matter, but because the matter worked and did these wonderful things, they thought it was proof of God, and so they made it into a religion. So let's start really fast. I want to go through the steps and this 16-month process.
All right, and then I will do my share screen. Just tell me which way to go.
Well, I just want to talk for a while. Okay. When you start the process, it's always started in the Northern Hemisphere on December 21st, with the sun moving forward, moving north. What you do is you collect essences from the rainwater and from dew. That's the male and the female. You have to go to Genesis to understand that. It's in the beginning when God created the heaven and the earth. The heaven was like an eggshell. It's designed after Phi because Phi is how nature works.
Am I on the right slide now? Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's the first. That's my book slide.
Okay, cool. Just let me know when you want me to change it and I'll do it.
Yeah, I will. But the earth is water, but the water is infused with light on the first day. And that's why it's like dew or like rain, because the lights of creation were the sun and moon, same lights that we have above right now. And what's important about understanding about Genesis, because it was the sun and the moon, one day was based on the moon cycle. So one day was actually one of our months long, just like now we have 12 months. It's based really on 12 moon months, 12 days of the year. In the 6 days of Genesis, Egypt saw the earth as two earths, the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere. Well, the sun recreated the northern hemisphere in 6 days or 6 months, and then it recreated the southern hemisphere in 6 days or 6 months. And they represented this as the two serpents on the caduceus. Each serpent they used as a metaphor because every year a snake will shed its skin and becomes a new serpent. So to them, it was a good metaphor. So the first day we collect our substances and we fill an egg. If I was relating this to Osiris, he went to a party and they put him in a casket and then they shut it and nailed it shut. Now, what I do with this egg full of water, and I'll show you the oven when we, when we start going through the pictures, I put this at the base of the oven, and the deep in Genesis means that I cover it with water. And this will be explained as we go on. Now, this is the same as Osiris, because what did they do with him in his coffin is they threw him in the, I guess, in the Nile River. So you have an egg with substance underwater. You have Osiris in a coffin underwater. The second step is I put this into the oven. Now, what I do is it goes in the oven, it goes in the base, it's covered with water. What happens with Osiris is his coffin comes up on land somewhere, and it turns into a tree, and he's in, the tree grows into a big thing, and anyhow, he's inside the tree. Now, the second day of Genesis is where we divide the waters, and what we're doing is after we've put this substance inside the pyramid oven, we place it in darkness and we keep it warm. And it's supposed to be totally sealed. The whole part of this secret is the matter is going to rot and become a kind of a hydrocarbon because it's underwater, and the oven is sealed and it can't get any oxygen. That's the same as Osiris being inside the tree. He's going to totally rot. And this goes on for 4 months till what they call the May Day, and that's the next step. So we're already into like the 5th month. Now, this May Day is the beginning of the 3rd day of Genesis, when the waters come together. That's the sun and moon, everything. You put your oven outside in the light where the sun and moon is shining into it. And this is how you made the androgynous matter that they say Adam was androgynous, but he wasn't. That'll change in a minute. This is okay. So I got an egg full of rotten matter, and I've got it outside working with it. This is the same as Osiris is in the swamp, chopped him into pieces and all that stuff. But the point is, Osiris in the swamp is just like this matter in the eggshell. They're outside, sun and moon shining on them. It's like making androgynous matter. This goes on till the end of August, which is our, September starts for the constellations. And it has to do with the virgin birth. Well, with the matter, we had androgynous material because we used the sun and moon. Now, September is important for many, many, many reasons. We could talk just about September and the virgin birth all night, but it's all about the matter is dried in moonlight only. Now, they saw the moon as a female. In Egypt, it was Isis, but to Jesus, it was Sophia. And each religion called the virgin a different name. But this is where original sin came from, because she produced with no consort. In other words, this step took away the androgynous matter of Adam, and it gave you a matter that only had soul, because you get soul from the female, you get spirit from the sun. This is what they believed, the lights were gods and goddess. So Adam, and we're all from Adam, was really produced with soul only, and he's in sin. Now, we're all in sin because we all come from Adam, and that's what the real original sin is about. It doesn't have anything to do with Eve and the apple in the garden. That's something that the church made up so that you wouldn't ever find out the truth about the past and about this medicine. Now, as far as Osiris, this is when Isis brings him forth as a newborn baby. But he doesn't want to live as a man. He wants to live as a god. And so that's really the next step. Now, what we can do with this Mercury in September, because that's what they call the matter at that stage, the true Mercury, we can make the 2 stones out of it, either the white stone or the red stone, or we can make both out of it. Depends on what you want to do with it. To make the white stone very quickly, it's made with just moonlight only. And so for the next 3 months, from the end of September to the end of December, again, 1 year, you just use the moonlight and vapor. It's worked at the top of the oven. No sunlight. If you touch it with sunlight, you destroy it and have to start again. So it's very specific, the things that you have to do. Now, to make the red stone, what we have to do is we have to make crowned androgynous matter. And I know the alchemists out there will know the term crowned matter. We make it the same way as we did the first time. It's the sun and the moon and everything comes together again. In October, when we start this, they call it the conjunction. And that's why, that constellation is the conjunction to October, because we're bringing everything together again. I should say almost all the constellations that were involved with this process, they all had word definitions. The word definitions is actually describing this process in the below, because what you're physically doing is what that definition consists of. Yet I've never heard anybody talk about those definitions or what they mean. But anyhow, I said Osiris wanted to become a god, and it says that he had become a super kind of male female before he could become the god. Well, with me making the androgynous matter, the crown androgynous for the red stone, that's the same as Osiris, only it doesn't say it there as the sun and moon. He becomes Orion and Isis becomes Isis, and they align, and there's a reason that that's happening. And they say Osiris disappeared for a while. Well, he became Orion male and was aligned with Isis, which is Sirius, which is the female. And so this is how he became a super type of male and female. But you see, it's a duplicate of the alchemy process again. Now, in December, what happens? We've made this crown matter. Osiris is a male, female, super male, female.
And now we're still on the first slide, right?
Right.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so this is December. We've been working on it 1 year. The white stone would be finished now in moonlight only. For the red stone, it's at the point where we have crowned matter, crowned androgynous matter. Now, before we worked it with the moon, and you see it was just soul, and that's basically what the white stone is pure soul. Now, Osiris wanted to be a god. Well, the belt stars in Orion and Sirius align on December 21st, where the sun rises. And those 3 days and 3 wise men that's the reason they call them the 3 wise men. It's really about this process. That story that you heard about the frankincense and gold and myrrh, that's another made up thing. And the star in the east is Sirius. It was Sirius then. It's still there now. But now what happens is it's aligned with the sun. The last 4 months, the matter that we're making into the stone is worked with just vapor at the top of the oven and sunlight. Now, you know that Horus and Osiris join in December, and they're together for 4 months until April, which is our Easter. And that's what it used to be about. Originally, Easter was about this matter was then finished, conceived, regenerated, whatever, perfect. Egypt turned it to Osiris in April, becoming the god. Everybody had different terminology, but this is basically what it was all about. It's about this process made into a religion. And I know that was very fast. There's a lot of things that as we go through the pictures that I'll add to it. And we have the cover of my book up here, The First Mythology. Now, the reason I wanted to show that this is my metaphor or my allegory, whatever you want to call it. And this is basically what I've seen and what I've done. Now, you see the egg shape for the heaven that we made. And you can't see it very well, but it shows all the constellations and all the colors that are associated with it and which light is being used. The first, you see a dark on both sides. That was when it was in the darkness and you're working. The second set of lights is the sun on one side, moon on the other. That's making the androgynous matter. The third one where it's white, that's with moonlight only. And then after that, you can see a little bit of white around the one side. That's moonlight making the white stone. And on the other side, you can see like the purple color going to the red, going to the purple red. That's just the sun and Horus. Now, see, if you'll learn this drawing every alchemical picture that you look at has got colors in it. Some of them will have an astrological sign, not very many. And if you know what you're doing at that step, and by the colors and look at this, you'll know the time of year it is, and you can tell what step they're doing, and you can understand the whole process very simply that way. But see, it has nothing to do with a laboratory. It has to do with shape and time and vapor and light and combinations outside, inside of a pyramid. And the pyramid is also designed after phi, like the eggshell is. And I think that what you're doing is you're concentrating the life energy by the pyramid shape and then by the shape of the eggshell. Plus, there's a thing about the eggshell that I found out that when sunlight goes through it, it makes it a kind of polarized light. So we're always working with polarized light, not just direct sunlight, except at the end when you have the top off. And here's another thing about the white stone. There's so many facts. Pardon me if I jump around because you just can't remember to say everything at the same time. When we dry the white stone in the moonlight only, you have to open it up on the top. It's called cutting off the head. And this gets to John the Baptist had his head removed for a female. But if you read the books about Egypt, this is something that's been going on for a very long time. I forget the names, those old Egyptian names enough to tie your tongue in the knots. But that's very old, but that's where John the Baptist comes from. John is always connected to the white stone, and Jesus, of course, is always connected to the red stone. So this drawing is really very important to understand, and it can be found in a lot of places. I have
Did you have this drawing made, Al, or what did you
it's what I made, and my daughter cut. Well, my daughter drew it the way I wanted it. I penciled out because I can't draw. But she drew it, and then I said, "This is the way the lights go, and these are the colors that I've seen." Okay, and I'll tell you one of the little secrets. You see up at the top where the black matter is and comes around, and then there's a little green, blue, and yellow.
Yeah.
If you do it right, you'll see that rainbow there. It takes 3 days, but the water, when you add it to when I was working with eggs, every once in a while you'll get an egg to work. I don't know why 90 out of 100 won't work. But when you add water to it, the water will turn lime green and stay that way for 24 hours. Then it'll turn that sky blue and stay that way for 24 hours. Then it'll turn to that yellow color for a day. And then the water clears up. The only color that's not really accurate here is that green water, or that green matter that's just below the rainbow that I talked about. It's just kind of rotted, yucky matter, and it's, it was pretty hard to get that color right. But all the other colors are right as they come and go. The white is for September, and you can see all the little black spots. That's called the return of the crows. That's shown in a lot of alchemical picture by a checkerboard floor. The orange is what they call the salamander. That orange goes into a lavender color, which here again, they'll call it the rainbow. And then that rainbow or that lavender color will stay that way till you get into December, and then it'll turn red. And that's important because we'll see that in a couple of the pictures. And if you can just remember the red, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I think probably we can go to the next picture.
All right. Before we do, any questions, Vance, from you or the audience?
I don't see any. I think everyone's waiting to see, more of the process.
All right. And before we go, if somebody wants to get this process, Al, do they simply get your book or contact you?
Well, my book is the best way because there's so much information. But I would wait because I just added a chapter and we're not quite finished getting all that done. But I've added some of the things that we'll be talking about here. But I never studied the Anunnaki, and I'll tell you why. Because back when they were talking about the Anunnaki, I listened to a couple of the offers, and And they said they emphasized the matter to make it more interesting. Well, I wasn't interested in studying matter that I knew that wasn't truthful. So I never spent any time with the Anunnaki. But what happened, there's a gentleman that has a forum, Craig Patrick. I started on his forum because I've been asked to leave Alchemy forums because I try to talk to people about this. And of course, they're all lab technicians and they think I'm nuts. So they said, get out of here, Al. You're just disturbing everybody. But on Craig Patrick's forum, I learned a lot about the Anunnaki and I saw the alchemy there. So I started studying the alchemy, but his forum is so popular that if I said ABC, tomorrow there would be 500 people that put some kind of an answer there, and you really couldn't accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. I needed someplace where I could put all my work down and everybody could see all of it and discuss it. So I went to a different forum. It's called The Missing Links by Michael Pell. And both these guys are pretty well known, but on the Missing Links, there's not that many people. Sometimes we have 50 people there, but you can talk about something and you can spend all week talking about it, so you can accomplish what you want to do.
All right, well, let's move on to the next slide.
Yeah, before we do, actually I remembered Joanne asked a question about what, of course, this is because she lives there. What about the southern hemisphere, Al? Were there no alchemists down there, or do you know anything about that? Because they'd have different constellations in different positions and so forth.
In the southern hemisphere, you could just start it in June instead of, in December, because then you'd be starting to start the cycle that way, because it's all based on, like it says in the Emerald Tablets, the work of the sun. You've got to, like through the summer, you're using the 3 hottest months. And even in the springtime, I went to Florida and lived in my motorhome for a few months so that I could finish it up, because I get pretty good sun down there in Florida. But you have to have the lights. Now, if you lived on the equator, you could do it any time of the year. Start in June, start in December. The light's always there. But our alchemists are pretty much all from England and France, mostly from France, all of Europe. That's where you see all this stuff. Like the process that I just talked about are the tablets that's over in Notre Dame. They're a little harder to figure out, but they're all there. So if you learn the steps and what they're about, there's no colors of Notre Dame because they're so old, from like the 1100s. There's no paint or anything on them anymore. But if you learn the step, what's happening and what's supposed to be there, you can figure them out. But this process is in Notre Dame too. It's in another place, the Newport Tower, that I have a picture of that. And I'll show you that process there. It's all over the place. This information that I'm talking about, you can find it everywhere in every country. Like they talk about Washington, D.C. This is all alchemy down in Washington, D.C. But nobody knew what it was based on. And this is what I'm telling you. This is what it's based on. So this picture that we have here, if I think that should have answered her question. Now, this is actually, it's listed as this gentleman's idea of the cosmos. This is what everything looks like. But actually, this is the oven made by the philosophers. You see, it's a pyramid, and you have a base underneath. They've done studies, and I've seen the studies in the center of this pyramid, and underneath it, there's an energy form that's created just because of the shape. And that's where you're doing all the work. Now, like I said, I can't read about this, I don't know what that's doing, but whoever designed this knew what it was doing. But if you look at this, this design, it's a circulating oven. You see all those little circles with numbers? They're all holes. Now, when I put the egg in the bottom, it's where that black spot is. And it's covered with water, the deep of Genesis. And in the spring, when we start working things, you take some of the water out of there, but you have water in the base, because what happens, the bottom is colored black, so it gets pretty hot. The upper part of this is a condensing chamber. Now, how you make mercury is the vapor rises up, the sun shines in the vapor condenses, and it runs down. And this is where the river with four heads are. You're seeing this from the side, and you see two little pyramids. Well, there's four small pyramids in this oven, and so there's a four-arm equal arm cross that I'll show you later, with a hole in the middle that feeds the matter down below. So every night you're putting dew into it. Every day you're putting condensate from the sun into it. And Mercury, the messenger, is the vapor. But how Mercury is the messenger is the vapor rises up. It's in the sunlight, which the light is good. The light is a God in part. And the vapor, it's like rain, joins with the light. And then when it condenses, it takes that essence that you collected prior, that you rotted and so on, et cetera, and it keeps feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And when you're working with just the moon, you have to have something to cover this in the daytime, and vice versa. When you're working with just the sun, you have to cover it so no moonlight gets in there, because if you put sunlight into the white stone, you ruined it and you'll have to start again. And it's the same way with the red stone. If you put moonlight into it, because I learned all these things the hard way, believe me, you ruin it. Whatever you put in, you can't take out. So this is the river with four heads. Now, a lot of people, I refer to Gerald Massey, when he described Egypt and the creation, how they had it. This is the way Egypt was created. He basically described this oven, but he didn't know about this oven. But it's in the books. The Egypt was square, it had four sections, it was surrounded by mountains, and that river with four heads, it does work. I mean, I've been working on these for a long time. If you have at least an 8-inch pyramid made out of glass, you'd be surprised how much water condenses and runs down into that, and the four rivers come together, feeding the below. But it's like Massey said, any place in the world where they found a few rivers, they've tried to say, this is the four rivers of creation. Well, I'm telling you, the four rivers of creation are right here in this oven. That's the firmament used in Genesis, and that half round thing down on the bottom is the heaven. So I think that pretty well covers this drawing. So we can go on to the next drawing.
We are in the next one there, Al.
Okay, now this is the tablets that I spent half my life figuring them out. But what I want to first show you, you can see the one-line drawing. If you remember what the oven looked like, you can see this one-line drawing is exactly like it. Well, why that's there, Flamel said that he hid the oven in his fresco, and that's his fresco, the lower part of this drawing. And after a long time, I finally figured out it's the design, because he says you must know why he's in heaven. Well, you see, he's in one of the little pyramids, which is heaven, and Peronella, his wife, on the other side, she's also in heaven. Well, she's from this drawing, you can see she's in a pyramid too, and below that is down on earth, or where the water and the deep and so on, etc. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing, Flamel said that Abraham, the tablets across the top and the one below on each side, the 7 tablets, those are the tablets of Abraham. And Flamel first said he showed the oven in 2 places. Well, the second one's obvious, it's a side view. And the third one is not so obvious, but that's a top view. But that third one is actually April. And you can see the little squares in the picture. There's 16 of them, and that's indicating that it's the 16th month. Now, the thing that's really important is you see 7 tablets here. But Flamel said that some of these tablets were doubles. The first 3 tablets are doubles. Okay, that's how that third tablet is April, the 2nd year. what's important is almost all the series like this, no matter whose they were, they all overlapped like that. It's part of the reason nobody ever could figure it out, because if you didn't know the end was folded into the beginning, how could you ever work the process? You just, there's just no way that you could ever figure it. The things that we talked about, you can see in the first, that's Mercury, the essence that we have to collect, and he's holding the caduceus, the two serpents, which is the two lights. In the second one, the first part of it is the dragons and the griffins, and you see how the sun is halfway divided. That's the second day of Genesis when we're dividing the lights. That's how he shows it. The flowers on top have to do with the second January. The third one, it's half in dark and half in light, because the first April, this is all in the dark. It's the second April that the 16 little squares come in, and this is shown a lot better in a lot of the other series. That's why I compare so many. When I work, I compare this picture to that picture to another picture in another series. Okay, and on the next picture with the king and chopping off the heads, and that's collecting the blood, when the waters are coming together, so on, etc. In the May Day. The next one, the two serpents. Now you see we had two serpents in the first picture. The two serpents here is when the waters have come together and the one serpent's eating the other. That's all it says. The waters are coming together. Okay, then going to the second row on the left side, you see the serpent on the cross. That's September. The curves on the right side of the cross form the curves on Virgo. So that's how it's represented to Virgo, the Virgin. In the last picture on the right, you see all these little mountains with the serpents and streams of water. That's the conjunction again, where the serpents are light and the water is water, and everything's starting to come together again. Then you would move back to the first picture, and then to the second picture, and then to the third picture. That's why you have to know the colors, because all these things are colored. You can find them on different alchemy sites. The colors are accurate, and by looking at the colors, you can tell which step they're talking about if you don't understand. And there's hundreds of beautiful pictures that they've painted, and it's not all about alchemy, but it would be related to this, and by the colors that's in the picture, you can tell exactly what they're talking about. Okay, we can go to the next tablet now. The next picture.
All right. Before we go, any questions from the audience, Vans, for this coded stuff?
Don't see any.
All right.
The reason that I put this up here, one of the ways that they show each one of these things has 16 rays. And that's one of their ways of telling you, 16 months or 16 days, however you want to call it. The first one is you see swords and daggers. Well, all these rays and daggers and swords are reminiscent of the obelisk, which is a ray of sunlight with a small pyramidion on the top. And there you see a little goat inside that circle, which is for December, which was their way of, in that particular picture, telling you that's the start, and this is a 16-month process. The second picture pretty much just shows the egg shape and the 16 months, and that it's the work of the sun. The third one, again, is just another sun with 16 rays, and I just put them here to show you that it's not just the one. This is just the way they showed that 16-month time period. Okay, we can go to the next.
16 months.
Yep.
If anybody has another theory, let us know. But it's right there. All right, so we shall go to the next slide.
Al, I think we lost your audio.
Yes, we lost your audio. What did you change?
How's that?
No, you're
That's
plugged
better.
in. Good. You're back.
Evidently,
Yeah,
I
please.
don't have a very good connection down there. Let's hope we don't lose it. What I
Okay, please
wanted
start
to,
again. Yeah.
yeah, what I wanted to show first here is look at that in the middle.
What's in the middle?
There's a little hole in the middle.
All right.
Remember, when I was talking to you about the oven, I said there was the drain hole in the center part that feeds the below.
All right. I see it.
Well, that's what this picture is showing. It has the numbers 4 and 3 there, which is has to do with the last 7 months. 7 is everywhere in alchemy, and it has to do with, like I said, the last 7 months, and it's divided those 3 months from October to December, and then from December to April. And on the top, you see the crowned matter, and you see a compass and a square. With a compass and a square, you can do what they call squaring the circle. And when you do that, you form a true pyramid. So that was another way of showing them you need the true pyramid. You have the eggshell. The dragon, of course, is the sun. The wings has to do with the vapor. So that's pretty much what that picture shows you, but I put that there just because I wanted to show you. And you can see down in that circle where the forearm equal arm cross is, the way the lines are drawn is like little bits of water condensing in there and runs to the middle. But you can see the pyramid shape there, the way they've drawn those lines.
Yeah, Al, we have a basic question I think it'll help people understand. Could you go over quickly what the goal of this process is? I mean, in fact, the question was as well, a lot of people say that, base metals to precious metals, but he wants to know if it's a secret code, dealing with human transformation and so forth. So could you please?
Well, what it's about is to make these stones. I listened to a guy that was down in South America, and they had found some small library down there. And what he was talking about, he says, this one stone, they say here that they had a medicine that cured all ills and that everybody lived a happy life. And the guy said, we've read this in different libraries that we've dug up all over the world, but we have no idea what they're talking about. Well, these stones, they're matter that the light slowly perfect. And once it's perfected, the red stone they figure was just like God's pure spirit. And the white stone, it's used as a medicine and it's pure soul. Now, if you want to transmute, there's more to it. You have to multiply the powder and you have to use gold powder. There's certain ratios you have to learn and mix it. Then when you add that to metal like lead, it will transform the lead to gold. I don't know how to make the stones yet, but I would imagine you have to add some of this powder to pure water with the stone in there, and somehow it affects it. But I don't know that, so I don't usually talk about it. But the goal, if you have this, that medicine, it's like Cancelent in the Mystery of the Cathedrals. He wrote that book. He said his master had been gone a long time. When his master left, he was probably 75 to 80 years old. He says when his master came back, he had regenerated himself, and he says he looked like me. He was about 50, 55 years old. So I can't prove that's true, but why would the guy lie? The Bible talks about these people, and nobody ever thought there was anything to it. Living 600 years, living 900 years. The Anunnaki, they just lived practically forever, but they probably knew more about how to use this stuff than what we've ever done. So,
It's the philosopher's stone that the alchemists talk about, pretty much, right?
right. If you have that, they said this is the greatest gift. If you have it, you have everything. There's nothing in the world that you need.
Mhm. Did Flamel discover the philosopher's stone, or am I getting
Yes,
too
he
Harry
had it.
Potter?
Yeah, no, he had the stone, and people talk about him that he really didn't die. That him and his wife went off
Right.
to India or something like that, and they were living over there. So, but I mean, I don't, some of those things I don't know. I'm only saying what it says in the books and what this is supposed to do. And I say, look at Egypt made this into a religion. They must have done that for a reason. But this is, Miguel, that you read the book on Egypt and everything gets back to the mystery and they'll never explain it or say anything about it. Well, this is the mystery. This is what it was all about.
And you have not been able to go the full 60 months and really find this medicine yet.
No, I have that picture that you've seen there. I have gone the whole 16 months, but I only had a little bit. I didn't know how to multiply my powder then. Now I know how to multiply it. But then I was working with just eggs, and that's a really, I can't explain why some eggs will work and 90% of them won't work. But let me tell you this story. I was watching this guy on television and I got in there like in the middle of the program. So I didn't know who it was, but it's some professor, and he was checking mud in the bottom of pristine mountain lakes and stuff like that. And the reason he was looking for meteorite dust, different things to see if it was there and so on, etc. So he had this sample of mud and he put it in a beaker and he poured water into it to do something, and the water turned to lime green. And he said, that ends up yellow. He says, but it doesn't really affect nothing. It has to do with the minerals. Well, I about come unglued. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got the bottom of a lake somewhere that here's the rotted matter. Now you have to remember, on the bottom of a deep lake, there's no oxygen. Everything slowly falls down there and it rots like you're supposed to rot it in the pyramid. And I'm saying, if you can find a very, very, very old swamp, you can go around and test with water and stuff. See if you can find, because if you can find one that turns the water to different colors, then you can make the stone out of that. So I've been doing that. I haven't been very lucky about it. And I'm working with the dew, but you have to collect a lot of it and you have to evaporate it. So there's just a little bit left. This is not really an easy thing. And then through the year, while you're working it, you have to go out, like you'll get a lot of moisture that'll come up in the evening because your water heats up during the daytime. Well, at night when the moon comes out and the hot water, it's cool on the top, it condenses and produces a lot of dew. Well, you have to make sure that dew all goes down and feeds the substance, because as soon as the sun hits it, it ruins it. It's an altogether different thing again. And it won't work if you don't. You have to babysit it.
I think we're losing you. Yeah. I think you became unplugged again. So you're right going to tell us a secret. Right now you're about to tell us a secret. Okay. Are you plugged in, Al, again?
I guess it's a Bluetooth issue.
Is it? I don't know if you're not plugged in.
Yes, network signal's fine.
I hear you guys.
There you go. Well, what I want to ask you, Al, what is this? I guess you call it alchemy. Could this be magic? Is this science-based, advanced science, some sort of everything happening at the right time for some cosmic event? That's what I'm curious.
Well, you can make it every year. That's the thing. If you live in the northern hemisphere, you have to make it the way I'm saying. If you lived in the southern, like if it's Australia, you just do it just the opposite. But you're just taking matter. And a lot of people say, oh, the sun, moon. I says, listen, look out your window. Everything on this planet is created because of the light and the vapor and the moisture and, over a long period of time. But you're saying all those things that it can make, it can't make this. I mean, when I was saying earlier, I says, you can't read about this in a book. We're still trying to figure out what the pyramid does. Well, I know that they used it for doing this. And I figured out that it depends on what they have inside the pyramids that they're affecting. And we ought to be able to figure out what they're doing by the way the shape affects the different materials that's inside the pyramid. But they knew all this stuff. We don't know it. And even like the rotting matter and stuff like that. I can't read about this. Believe me, I've been through a million books trying to read something about this matter and the color changes and stuff like. We don't have anything. We just don't know anything about it. Everything you have to figure it out yourself. I'd love to find an alchemist and be a student, but like I said, nobody's ever said anything to me that would indicate to me that they knew anything about this.
Right.
And when I talk to people, you notice I'm telling you things that no alchemist ever talked about before. But this is really what alchemy used to be. And it's why I wanted to go through the Egyptian religion, because you can see those steps. That's not a coincidence. That's what the religion was based on. And we talk about Jesus, uh, he had this medicine, and like things that happened, like they say, well, Jesus from the ages 12 to 30 just disappeared. No, they used to take, if you were one of those persons in the temples of Egypt, they took you when you were 12 and they taught you until you were 30. Now, reading in the Gnostics, they talk in a lot of places where they say Jesus learned magic in Egypt. Well, this is the magic that he learned. And that proves that he was there for a long time to learn it. And his disappearance and appearance is the same as what they say. That's what they did. But, I think that a lot of people just don't want you to know anything. So they never really discuss it. But see, nobody knew what any of this was based on. So they come and they talk on your show. And I sat here shaking my head because no, it's about this. No, it's about that. But if you don't understand and know what this is, then how will you know to answer questions or to say what things are based on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we'll go to the next picture now. Let's see what that
All right, here we go.
Okay, this is the May Day that I was talking about. Okay. Usually it's based on the female. If this was in color, she'd be in blue and white. But if you look to the right, you see that little triangular design. That's actually the upper part of the oven. If the sides that are coming down were straight, the whole oven would be there. You know what I mean? But it shows a pot at the top and one at the bottom. That's the waters coming together. And I always tell people, if there's something in the picture you can count. Well, there's 5 flowers there. 5 is for May. Because like I said, all the constellations were about this. And if you read the constellation for May, it'll say something that can be understood as the waters coming together. I'd love to be putting in the colored pictures and stuff like that. You can't believe the problems, even in this stuff. People have taken these pictures and they touch them up a little bit, and then they copyright them, and you can't use them. And I don't think that's right, but that's the way it is. So, but that's what this picture shows. You see the mountain there, the pile. That's supposed to represent the oven.
Mm-hmm.
The alchemists would call it the mountain and the little mountains. And that's because you see it's one big pyramid with 4 small ones inside. Here you see the one big pyramid shape. And of course, the vapor, like I told you, mercury, that's how it works, is the vapor in the light condensing, collects from the sun and the moon and feeds the below. And slowly, it's like I said, 16-month process. It slowly changes the matter and perfects it. Okay, we can
Very
go
cool.
to
Next slide.
picture. Yeah.
Do you have photos of your eggs and your oven and so forth, Al, coming up? Or
I don't have them on here. I mean, I could go get them, but it would take a while to get them.
I was just wondering. No, it's okay. Whatever you plan to do.
Yeah, I have a couple pages in my book showing a lot of different pictures of it. This is just the deer and the unicorn, the two beasts that live in the forest. And a lot of people have always figured the unicorn, because of the white color, was linked to the moon. But remember, I was telling you about the rays and the knives and spears and arrows. Any single pointed thing represented the sun. So when you see the unicorn, it represents the sun. And this will be interesting in a couple more minutes. Now you see the deer's horns, that's represents the moon. You see how it looks almost like crescent moons over there, the way the horns are drawn. But Flamel said he used his wife with her hair all disheveled. Well, her hair all disheveled is kind of like that deer with the many points horns. And there were other times that he used his wife, and it's because of the female aspect and when you're supposed to be using the female. But so the unicorn represents spirit from the sun, and the deer represents soul from the moon. Now we can go to the next picture now. Okay, this is April. Remember I told you when we were looking at the other one, see the 16 little blocks that's in that picture?
Right, yeah.
Okay, and they always divide it up. See, if you count the flower, there's 7.
And this is from Flamel, this picture you're showing us?
No, this is not Flamel. This is another series. That's
All right.
why I do this, is I'm trying to tell you all these series say the same thing. Now, if you could see this lion, he's a gold lion. There's one that's almost identical to this. There's some color changes, and it has a green lion there. Well, the green lion means it's not finished. The gold lion means that it is finished. And the lion, you see the sun above it, is like the sun. The 7 flowers, they always count 7 from September. It's 7 months, and it's divided usually into 4 and 3. Cupid, they relate him Alchemy because he's always shooting his arrows. So it's like he's shooting a ray of the sun. And that's what this picture, you've got the guy that's there. He's pretty much colored the colors of the stone. And his hair and stuff is all fire, because even in April, you might have to keep this warm through the different months. You always have to keep it, like they say, just like body temperature, so that the matter can work. If you let it get cold, of course, the matter stops working. If you get it too hot, it can dry out. And you have to always make sure that you've got the right amount of water in your oven, because that sun, I've seen my ovens get as hot as 140 degrees, that glass setting out. And if it goes dry in one day, you'll lose your work and you'll be starting again.
Starting from the beginning.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've done that. Next year, start again. Now you
Start again.
you mess this up. So okay, we can.
They have fermenters in pharmaceutical companies that do all those things. They keep temperature, liquids, they measure everything. It's maybe you should look into that.
Yeah, you can get complicated, but you can't have metal around it and stuff like
Oh no,
that.
they're glass. No, they make pharmaceuticals out of it, so you can't have any reactive things inside. Should all be inert. They have stirring things with special. Anyway, I just want to mention.
Well, it's true, but that's one of the reasons I'm talking about this. Is there's a lot of lab alchemists out there that are great with laboratory and so on, etc. And if I can show this to where they know that it's the right thing, I'll get people working on this, and altogether, I know 99% of it. Maybe I know everything, but it's just hard to do, because, like I said, you got to be there for 16 months babysitting this thing. Sometimes you just can't be there.
All right.
And I've had, my oven sitting out and a storm come along and the wind blew it off the pedestal and it was in 1,000 pieces. I've had, a leak occur and the water run out and the sun destroyed it. You name it, it's happened.
Wow.
It's
nature is the hardest laboratory. Huh?
Yeah. Well, that's why the Anunnaki had us trained so that we could do all this stuff.
Yeah, we were the little trained monkeys to do all these things.
That's right.
Get them their immortality.
Yeah. But you see, again, this is April, the finish, the gold lion. There's another one just like it that has a green lion there that's showing you the first April. Okay. And they'll show 2 scenes. Maybe the flowers and everything will be there, but by the colors, that they're talking about the first April and not the second. That overlap has really done a number on a lot of people. It did a number on me for a long time till I finally figured it out. Okay, we can go to the next picture. Okay, this is one of the ones that's at Notre Dame. And this particular one I put in because I said, if there's something there to count, count. So you have a female, one book closed, one book open, like you're allowed to know certain aspects of this, but there's a lot of it that you're not allowed to know. The ladder has 9 rungs. 9 mean anything to anybody? 9 is September. And so you could call her Mary or Sophia or Isis or Anana or any one of a dozen others, but that's what this is about. And like I said, the tablets that this is at Notre Dame, all the colors, but this thing is like 700 years old. They're still a beautiful works of art. I'd like to go there one day, but we'll see. This is a pretty easy one to see. Some of them takes a long time to figure them out, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. Al, your focus on your camera's out a bit. We can't see your lovely face.
I don't want everybody to know me, see.
There you go, much better.
Okay. All right, I'll get closer.
Please continue.
Yeah, we can go to the next picture now.
There we go.
Okay, this is, we talked about Adam being androgynous.
Right.
Well, this is the androgynon in the upper part of the oven. That cot is that place in the top part of the oven where you can work. You see, I put this picture here because you see the moon in the right corner of that picture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being dried in moonlight. Those handles and things kind of look like the tops of the 4 little glass pyramids. But see, once he's dried, he's no longer androgynous matter. He just has soul. That's where original sin, like I said, that's where original sin came from. It wasn't about the garden and Eve, and that's made up. So we're all in sin. And a lot of the things that Jesus talked about, we'll talk about that, and I can explain. See, if you understand this, you can understand almost everything that Jesus said, because he was talking about this. He wasn't talking about the Christian religion. He was a pagan, by the church's definition. And it used to bother me to say anything like that because I grew up in the Catholic Church. But it's if do you want to know the truth or do you want to live a lie? So
give us the truth. The truth shall set us free.
Well, this
could have been a Catholic, right? Wasn't invented yet.
I was an altar boy. So anyhow, every step, and I'm going to prove this with something Jesus said, that prayer 22, he says, where you make the 2 into 1.
That's from the Gospel of Thomas. Yeah.
Yes, the Gospel of Thomas, prayer 20, where it is no longer male or female.
Mm-hmm.
Then you enter the kingdom. This is exactly what he's talking about. Only he's talking about the crowned matter. This here would not be the crowned matter. This is the first 3rd day of Genesis. And we're just talking about Adam being dried into having only soul. Miguel, this stuff. A lot of places it says, like he said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? And there's another one where he says, and God breathed into the man and he became a living soul. That's your buddy there. What is he that Sophie created?
The demiurge?
Yeah. That's him. See, that's all he had was soul,
right? Because
that's all he can get from the female,
right?
Sophie, I think it's Sophia there, but this is where Sophia comes from. Is this right here, and this shows that those things that Jesus said, he knew all about this. So,
what are some things he might have said in the New Testament that give it away when he's talking about alchemy?
Well, I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time with the Bible because it's been changed so much. I like the old books. The older, the better, because those guys were they weren't lying or making something up or trying to make you know something else. You know what I mean? They were telling you the truth. And That's what I find anyhow. They've changed everything. So what good is it? You know?
No, there's a messenger.
Okay.
And why do you think the Anunnaki?
We'll get to that.
Okay, yeah, because I'm saying, did the Anunnaki just stop ruling us and we forgot about it, or
Well, first of all, they tried to destroy us, right? I think they probably
yeah, in the
destroyed.
flood?
Yeah, they destroyed most of the people on the world. And I mean, that's my belief. They did it. They knew it was coming and they left.
Oh, they
And
left.
yeah, they left. And they said, we don't want you to have this. Well, if you trained a bunch of people to make it and you're making enough for, them to pack their ships and take off, I think they're the ones that were responsible for it, but that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow,
All
we
right.
can go to the next picture.
Let's go to the next slide. Whoa.
Okay, this is
Whoa, like Keanu Reeves.
yeah, now you see the red cloth. This is you see the green has 7 little points. This is the 7 again. So the red is telling you this is in December because that's when you have the red color. But the code here is in the background. Do you see the 4 towers?
Yes.
But there's 3 of them are small, right?
Right.
So that's telling you 4 and 3 of the 7. That's why I put this here. And I wanted to point this out. Yeah, there's 4 towers, but 3 are small. This is the way they do things. And it takes you a long time to figure that out. But here's Jesus in the red. There's 7 in the green, meaning he's unfinished, but he's working for the red. He's working for perfection. He's going to become pure spirit. And the towers back there is telling you the 4 and 3 of the 7. And that's about all that that's saying. So we can, if that's clear, we can go to the next picture. Okay, this is one of my favorites, and being
Yeah,
blown up.
this is an obvious one. Some guy with a sword attacking an egg.
Right. Well, you see by the shadow, the sword's pointing at the sun. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you see under the sword in that wall, can you see that doorway? But doesn't that look like a pyramid sitting there?
Yeah, on top of the doorway, you're right.
Yeah, see? So they're showing you the hidden oven. But you see on the ramparts on the top of the wall back there, there's 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the sword's cutting between the 3rd and 4th one, right?
You are correct.
He's red. This is December again. And this is another way that they're showing you the time. And of course, the fire is there because of it's cold outside. You got to keep this thing warm. See, they had a million tricks. And
by they, you mean those who are guarding or keeping the secret.
Right.
The alchemists or secret societies or whatever.
Right. See, an alchemist drew all these pictures in this particular series. And, you've got to get inside his mind and see what he was thinking. Well, he showed you the oven. He's showing you the egg. He's showing you the sword pointing at the sun. He's showing you the color, which is the time. And he's telling you the time too, because he's dividing those 7 ramparts between 3 and 4. Like I said, you find 7 everywhere in the 3 and 4. The checkerboard floor, I mentioned that's usually based on the white. When you make this matter in September, it's just as white as the screen. The picture can't see it from the eggshell if you got a really bleached out white eggshell. It's so white, you just can't see it. But when you go continue to work, that's where they call it the return of the crows, because it turns into black and white. Like there's little 1/8-inch black spots all over it. And I don't know what causes that, but that's what happens. And they call that the return of the crows. They refer to the crow to the first color that's black and death, so on, etc. And mentioning that when Flamma was talking about the the true Mercury of September. He said to continue the metaphor, where before we called it death, now we call it life. See, that was the understanding of the white matter, the true Mercury in September. And, they raised the Ankh in Egypt in September, which had to do with life. They did a lot of things like Massey said they hung things on hills and high places. Well, that's because you're working at the upper part of the oven now. Everything about Egypt is tied to this in some way. And if you spend enough time going over everything, like I said, I can go through the books on almost every page, put a mark there because something needs to be explained. But this is what it's about. It's not about Egypt. I wish I could go back there when it was in its glory.
Yeah, join the club.
Yeah.
And yes, and it's almost September in a couple of days. So that's
well, I've got some out there I got to be working with, but I think I'm going to have a bad luck. I'll tell you about that story too, because you have to catch everything. Flamel said he painted himself orange, black, and white. Well, the first color is black. So what the hell is orange? Well, it's the egg yolk that's orange. That's why I was messing with eggs. And I was lucky enough that I had a half a dozen of them that actually worked, and I finally got all the way through with it. But I've had 5 million of them that won't work. And I can't tell you it's something that chicken's eating and something that I wished I knew that, because then you could feed it to the chickens and you could have all the stuff that you wanted. But that's what I'm hoping by being public about this, that we'll get those little bugs figured out, and then we'll be like the Anunnaki, and I'll probably die of old age, but everybody else could be able to live to 1,000 years or so,
Hopefully you'll take it, and of course send me some.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's what this picture shows.
All right, next slide.
Yes, sir. Okay,
this can't be anything alchemical. It's just Jesus over some soldiers who are freaked out, some Roman soldiers after his resurrection.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, huh? But you see the angel on the right is green. That means it's not finished yet. And you see the angel on the left is the purple color. Well, that's the finish. Now you see in the background there's 3 women. And you see in the front there's 4 men. What is that? We got 7 again, huh? And you got it divided between the 4 and 3 again. And Jesus is all in the red. If he was finished, he'd be in the purple, the ruby purple color that the stone is. See, right. He's not finished here. That's what this says. There's a lot of it about Jesus. But all these guys knew the truth, the people that painted these pictures and stuff. But if you didn't know what it was about, you'd have no idea. I mean, they could hang this up on a public place and say, I just painted this wonderful picture of Jesus, and nobody would know unless an alchemist came along and he'd say, hey, Miguel, I see your picture. I like that. That's about December, right? And we could talk. But this is December again. There's the 4 and the 3, the 7, the green and the purple, Jesus all in red. And of course, he's got that red forearm cross up there, like the Templars.
Right.
See, the Templars were alchemists too.
Oh, were they? So they had the secrets too.
Yeah, they had the secrets. That's how they made their gold, and they used to cure the sick too. Well, that's what this picture's about. We can, any questions? We can go to the next.
Vance, on your side, any questions?
Yeah, someone wants to know. In fact, Dale Stone wants to know, does the egg represent the womb?
I suppose you might be able, you could probably look at it like that, but it's not about people. It's about matter. It's about perfecting matter using nature. Like the alchemists say that nature cannot do this and man cannot do it, but man controlling nature can do it. That's why you have to select what light you're using and the matter and the shape and so on, etc. Then you can do it. But a lot of people try to relate this to you and me, but I just say, look, it's a process. You can consider it any way you want, believe what you want. But the thing to do is to learn the process and know what it was about, because this really is everywhere. It's all over Europe in stone carvings, the Henday Cross, the Shepherd's monument, which we'll discuss. It's here in Washington. It's here, the Newport Tower in Rhode Island. This stuff is everywhere, and nobody knows what it's about. So it's about this process. And the alchemists were nice enough to pass on the information at the risk of their lives, and some of them it did cost them their life. So
Mm.
hey,
Next slide.
yeah, we can go to the next one. Okay, this is a picture of Mary Magdalene.
That's Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, there's a lot of pictures of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, just like in the Bible, she's holding a unicorn.
Yes, but the unicorn's got that single point, and what does it represent?
The sun, the solar.
Right. And so what is it representing with her holding it? It's representing Jesus.
Mm.
But you see the necklace, you see the three stones, the black, the ruby red, and the white.
Mm-hmm.
That's pure alchemy. And your one lady there, Barbara Walker, when she was on, I have her book, says right in there that he taught her the all, Mary Magdalene. Jesus did.
Yeah, in Dialogue of the Savior, it says that, or she's the woman who understood the all.
Yeah.
She's the only one who gets the gnosis.
Yep. And like when Jesus said he was going to make her a man.
Mm-hmm.
You remember
the
that?
Gospel of Thomas. Yeah, she'll make him into man, like, because Peter doesn't like her being a woman or something like that.
Yeah, but how does he make her into being a man?
I don't know.
All he did was baptize her or give her some of the stone, because then she gained spirit. See, she only has a soul, like we all only have a soul, and the male aspect is pure spirit. So if he gave her the stone or baptize her, that was the other thing. But you're supposed to be baptized with rainwater, because the rain has been in the sun and it's absorbed the essence. So when you're baptized with it, it's a way of giving you spirit.
So not holy water, rainwater is the way to baptize.
Right. So, well, that's why she's holding the unicorn. And there's pictures of Jesus on a unicorn. There's a lot about it. But see, all these guys that painted these pictures, they knew. Or whoever told them how to paint this picture knew.
Yeah.
Because her robe is the color of the stone. It's that ruby red color, like the stone on her necklace. Well, that's what that picture says.
Cool.
Okay, we can go to the next one. And I just put this.
Not medieval.
Well, somebody put it in an alchemy book. Now, what does that look like?
I don't know. A glass, a close up of a glass with a stem?
Well, it's the water being stirred around. Now, doesn't that look like the unicorn's horn?
Yeah, going downward.
It does.
Yeah, but that's what it is. He was showing you how I know about the unicorn, or the unicorn horn, and means the sun, and so on, etc.
What's this picture from?
This is an alchemy book.
It's in an alchemy book. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So.
All right. Well, next time everybody sees a unicorn, you know the secret meaning.
Yeah.
Not a lunar being, solar being, alchemical, and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell my 7-year-old daughter who's crazy about unicorns this after I get off here, because I don't think she'll get it. It'll kind of ruin her day. But
yeah, even a lot of big people won't get it. Okay, we can go to the next one now. I just had to throw that in.
And we're back to, of course, Mary and the red egg.
Yep, the red egg. Now you know what that. See, it's that purple color, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now you know what that egg's about.
And the red robes, her dark skin.
Yep.
And these pictures are always looking to one side like the other one. Is there anything, you know what that means?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Just the way the guy painted it. But it just shows that she did know this. she was taught about the all. She
What
was
is she
made
holding in the
male.
other hand, like a flute or a tube?
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you, but I know what the egg represents.
All right.
That's something people don't. Easter eggs and the Easter bunny is all from alchemy too. You know, it's the colored eggs. They would color eggs because it had to do with this. And they used the Easter bunny because the rabbit never closes its eyes. It's always open. Well, at the end, you might have to open up part of the oven so the sun can shine directly on the matter when it gets to that point where they said it no longer fears the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can actually see, because you're always trying to make the sun stronger, which you say, well, you can't do that. I say, yeah, you can do a lot of things. If you have it with a lot of water and you change that to mud, then that makes it stronger, the effect of the sun. And if you've got it up at the top and you got the side open, then it's even stronger. Yeah, it's direct sunlight, not through the glass. So there's a lot of things to it that you have to learn and how to do it. Okay, we can go to the next picture.
We got Jehovah.
Yes, sir. But see, this is an old picture, and you see his head, how it's triangular.
Yeah.
Well, here's one that's both triangular and it also has the halo. But is the farther back you go, there's no halo. There's the triangular. That's God in heaven. But I took this one to show you that this was like a transition period. First, we'll put a halo around the triangle for the firmament for heaven, and later that part just goes away and there's nothing there but the halo. See how they slowly change everything.
Right. What church is this?
Well,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Any medieval church is going to have the same symbols and stuff hidden in plain sight, as they say.
Yes, it's in plain sight, But I hate to name names, but I think you can figure it out.
Yeah.
It's God in heaven. That reminds me, like our Capitol building in Washington D.C. Doesn't that kind of look like an egg set there? That big round white. And there's a picture just like this of George Washington up at the top, and they all laugh because they say, "Yeah, it's George Washington in heaven." And everybody, of course, thinks, heaven up in the sky somewhere. But what they're really saying is that that shape it's got phi in it. And so the painting is actually in heaven because of the shape. So when they say George Washington's in heaven, they're kind of laughing at you because you don't know the truth about it. So
secret societies knew the truth, right?
Yeah. Well, I've talked to a lot of them, Masons and stuff like that, and they're either very good liars or they forgot what it was about.
Probably a little bit of both. Who knows?
Yeah, I think so, because I've talked to a lot of them, and you just can't get nothing out of them. Oh, you know what that means? Well, yeah, you don't know what it means? No, I don't know what it means as well. Let me explain that to you. So, but I wanted to show you that's the transition. After a while, no more pyramid shape over his head, just a halo.
Right, got phased out.
Yeah, take away the old knowledge and give them new. Okay, we can go next picture. Okay, now this is something that came from the mystery of the cathedrals. When Cancelet was talking about stuff, he was talking about what they call the Henday cross. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or not. Well, it's an unexplained mystery, and it's in the northern part of Spain just before you go into France. And these are the symbols that's on the bottom of it, and nobody knows what they mean. So you see the left top, you see the cross and the 4 A's. You ought to be able to figure out what that is now. Remember the base of the oven?
Yes.
And there's 4 small pyramids
Mm-hmm.
and the 4 rivers between them. There's no circle
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Isn't that the same thing?
Yes.
Yep. Now the lower right, the 4 stars is earth, air, fire, and water. But you see that sun? It
Mhm.
has 16 of those rays or whatever around it. So now you know what that's about.
Yeah, just counted at 16.
Yep. Above it, the 8-pointed cross is really about the May Day. It's the way you can see the planet Venus from Earth. The way we spin around the sun, it makes it look like Venus is in retrograde,
Mhm.
and there's actually 8 points. So that's a tricky way of talking about May, which is Venus, which has to do with the May Day. And then the moon down here, just, the sun and the moon is part of it. The other parts are the secret part. At the top of the cross, it says INRI on the one part. And the one definition of INRI means the earth is renewed by fire.
Hmm.
Well, fire is the secret fire, the sun. And the earth is renewed. So this whole thing is all alchemical. The earth is
Very
renewed
cool.
by fire every year.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to throw
Awesome.
these things in because we can explain things that have never been explained.
All right, now we know.
Yep.
All right, next slide.
Yep. Next slide. Okay, this is the Shepherd's Monument. That book, the Da Vinci Code, they spent a lot of time on this with a picture on the left. And what they come up with was that mountain in the background meant something, and they showed you a map of that area, and there was 3 or 4 places. They thought that that mountain was part of different things that they had over there. In other words, it was like one of the 3 pyramids, okay, or one of the posts for whatever. But that's not what it's about. Now look at the picture on the right side, the all gray one.
All right.
Can you see what's on the top there? Doesn't that look like the oven?
Yeah, it does look like an oven, pyramid at the top and everything.
Yeah, yes. That's what that mountain's about. Remember they called it the
Oh,
mountain?
I see. Yes, yes.
Okay, and they say there's a secret code to this. Well, I've told you guys what the code is.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it in either of the pictures?
Or they're
Remember
pointing it?
No. Remember the 4 towers?
Oh, yeah, the 4 towers. Where are those? Do you see them, Vance?
No,
No,
they're
I
not.
think that's the hint. See,
That's
there's
the hint, yeah. Do you see there's 1 woman and 3 men?
Right,
See, there's 4 people there, right?
right.
right.
But there's 1 woman and 3 men. So there's 4 and 3. That's the
So
7 again. But I'm telling
So
you,
the
it's
woman
everywhere.
counts as 4, then she's like the big tower.
Yeah, she's the 4th. But well, she doesn't have to. I'm just referring you to that because you saw there was 4 towers, but one was different. So that was the 4 and the 3. And this is the same thing, basically, just drawn a different way. That's what they did. The next guy would draw it totally different again. But if you know about the 7 and the 4 and the 3, you could figure it out. It's like the mountain on the left side. Well, you can't really conclude anything. There's a mountain in the background. Who knows what it means. But looking at the same picture over here on the right side and seeing that design on the top, if you know the oven, that's exactly what that design represents. So that's what this mountain over here and why it's important and why it was painted that way. That mountain is referring to the oven. This one over here is just showing you the oven, but you have to know it.
Makes sense.
Yep. And that secret code that they're always talking about is the 4 and the 3.
Interesting. Well, that makes art much different now. I'll be looking for it.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, next picture. Okay, this is the Newport Tower. Okay, it's in Rhode Island,
Mm-hmm.
and everything's built into this. The 8-year cycle of the moon is built into it. The constellations are built into it. Everything's built into it. But what nobody ever knew was the alchemical process is built into it.
Mm.
Now you see over that center arch right there, they call that the egg stone. It's
Oh,
right in the
wow.
middle, right at the top of that arch.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Well, at 9:30 a.m. on December 21st, there's a window back on this other side. The sun shines through that and it shines right on it. Well, when do we start to process and what do we fill with matter? An eggshell.
Wow.
So that's what's there.
Did you take this picture and figure it out, or?
Well, I didn't take this picture. Hopefully, I won't get in trouble with it. But I have to show these things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You see that window above and to the left?
Yeah.
Okay, just remember that that's there. But that's all this picture shows. I just want to show you that egg. That's December 21st, 9:30. The sun shines through a little window and lines right up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because that's the time to start the process.
Right.
Okay, let's go to the next picture. Okay, now this is the same tower, the arch to the left side. Okay, you see right there at the top, there's two stones there. One's the tablet stone, and there's a red stone over it.
The left arch.
Yeah, the left arch.
Okay, I see it.
Yeah, there's a fireplace underneath it
Okay,
on the other side.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, that stone tablet, the first one, the white stone. First of all, the egg stone is on the other side of these two. So this is December too, but it's on the other side. It's when the sun's going down. But you see the red stone above it. This is the white and the red stone that is finished. Well, the red stone's not finished, but it's the red of December, and it's when the white stone is done 1 year later on December. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you move to the right, that window is spring and fall, or September and spring. And what happens, there's buildings and stuff in the way now, but the light where the bay is up there, yeah, right there,
Mm-hmm.
the light bounces off the bay and it's choppy, watery, and it shines into that fireplace on the other side, and it looks like a fire's burning those 2 times of the year.
Wow.
Okay, now here's the tricky part. Do you see the middle of that other arch there? Yeah, right over a little more. One more right there. See those 2 stones?
Right here?
Yeah, right there in the middle.
Okay.
I don't want to mess with nothing. Yeah, you see the triangular stone and the 4-sided stone below it?
Yeah, right here.
That's April. And there's the 7 again.
Okay.
4 and 3.
Right.
That's April. Now you can figure out every month, but I hope I put the other picture in. I'll tell you about it if I did. It's there. You see up halfway on the right side of the tower, there's a big white stone. Over a little bit more. Over to the
this one?
right. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty good sized white stone. There's a mural inside, or a fresco of Jesus and John the Baptist. That's on the outside of where John the Baptist's head is. Now the Templars, they always carried around that head, which I think was the head off John the Baptist. Okay, and they knew that Jesus and John the Baptist were pagans and were alchemists. They learned that when they were down in the Holy Land. So I mean, that's why they carried that around with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they pointed it out and so on, et cetera. But that's June. It's over just far enough to where June, it's there. What else should I tell you about this tower? So you see the 7, the red stone. Oh, what I want to tell you, that tablet underneath the red stone over in this first arch, There's one just like
Whoa.
it. Oh, oh, oh.
That was me. I think I hit the wrong button. Let's go back in time. Oh no, forward in time.
That's okay. Kill a few minutes there. Yeah,
There
back to the
Review.
tower.
It's going to be
Where one more.
you go.
Okay. You see that stone below the red stone?
Yeah.
That's just like the one that's held by our Statue of Liberty.
What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Well, I'm telling you, it's that tablet that our Statue of Liberty carries.
Oh, I see the tablet. Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's just like that one. Okay. And what I wanted to also say, I saw it on TV. Haven't been there. They went to the Templar Church over in France, and I don't know if it's the only one or which one, but there's a small Statue of Liberty outside that church. And our Statue of Liberty is built on a five-sided pentagram,
Oh,
and she has 7 spires in her crown. And if I go there, I'm sure I could find other things, but she's alchemical too.
wow.
But this shows this was built, if it wasn't built by the Templars, it was built that knew the same religion that the Templars used, you know. And they say this was built around, I think, 1300 or 1350, something like that, 1400, right in there, which it could be that there was some Templars over here at that time. And they could have been off by a 50-year period too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know the Templars, there's John the Baptist, there's that stone, there's one like that in front of their church. You know, it all adds up. Either it was somebody that knew the religion, some alchemist or person that knew the religion anyhow, built and designed this. But this is all not known by anybody. But I put these things here to show you that what I'm talking about is the truth. You can't make that up.
No, at some points it's no longer a coincidence anymore.
Right.
It's something
right.
more, a synchronicity,
Yep.
a pathway.
Yep. Okay. I love that tower. Now we can go to the next picture. Okay. I did. There you see right in the center, there's the white stone. Down to the left is the window.
Mm-hmm.
And on the right side of that window, you can see the triangular rock on top of that arch.
All right.
Okay, so I did put this in. So that's where John the Baptist, his head is on the other side of that white stone.
Oh.
So it's quite a tower. I did go there. So you just want to hug it, you know.
Who did they say built it, or what's the official narrative?
There's who was the traitor during the Civil War, went up to Canada. His grandson lives in the area and they gave him credit for it. But I read a lot about everything he said and did, and I couldn't see anything where would indicate that he was any kind of an alchemist. And these guys, they always say something, you know. You can't help not talk about it. Especially if you would have done this. Oh, geez, what's that guy's name? He was the traitor.
Wait, who is it? Oh, God.
Not Paul Revere.
No, it's even a term.
Benedict Arnold.
Benedict Arnold, yeah. His grandson has a place across the bay and can see this from across the bay. And they said something about, they thought maybe he built it. But maybe he did, but I don't think that he did because everything that I read about him, I couldn't see anything, no mention of alchemy whatsoever. And another thing I wanted to say, you see how that stands on 8 legs.
All right.
Anyhow, you've seen the forearm equal arm cross where they have the ends real wide. And, you know, they come back in like this, but they go, that's the 8 points on that cross. That was another thing that I forgot and just remembered. It's hard to remember. There's just so many things.
Yeah.
You see up on the top above this one window, there's a little window up there.
Yeah, small little window.
Yeah, there's one like that on the other side that shines through, like I was telling you, for the sun to shine through on December.
Those are 7 arches there too, right? Or did you mention that already?
I didn't. No, but thank you for saying that. But no, I didn't know. I didn't look at that. Yeah, there you go again. If you know it, you can see it. You go to things like that and you go, wow, look at this. Wow, look at that. Everybody will think you're nuts, but you'll know what you're talking about. Yeah, the 7 arches, there's 7 again, Yeah, I hate to move. I don't want my speaker to go off here. Anyhow, we can go to the next picture now. Okay, now this is the Anunnaki. Okay, we're going to see a bunch of stuff with the Anunnaki. This is Nintu, I think they called her. And she made a Dhamma, and this is where they say man was created. Now you see that tree right there?
Yeah,
It's got 9 leaves. So that's talking about September again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that just like Isis bringing forth Osiris?
Yes.
Now, do you believe Isis mixed up mud and his bones and come up with that? Well, this isn't man being created either. They brought Genesis with them. And this is, Sitchin actually drew this picture from what he had read. And I wrote to his cousin, I think it was, a young lady, and she gave me permission to use this. But there's a lot of truth to that. And they just have the wrong understanding, but they didn't know anything about the alchemy. What else could they say? If they knew the alchemical process and they knew they were talking about matter, you would have known that they're actually talking about the true matter, Mercury, or whatever you want to call it, of September. And that tree with the 9 leaves, that proves it. What you got on the left is a guy mixing mud, and the other one's got the spittle from the god that it's like the story of Isis and Osiris. She hadn't helped her for the 5 days so she could impregnate herself. And I wanted to tell you, Osiris lost his penis in the swamp. You remember that?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the reason he did that, if you make compost, which is basically what we're making, it's beautiful dirt. Anything can grow in it, but it has no seed, does it?
Nope.
That could be the best dirt in the world, and it'll sit there forever and it'll never grow nothing unless the seed lands on it. Well, our matter that we're working with has no seed. But at the end, the sun is a lot of things. It's sulfurous, it's spirit, it's gold, and it's the seed for gold, which means it's the seed for perfection. So when Osiris goes through that last 4 months, he picks up that seed when he becomes the god. He has the seed for gold. So he couldn't have 2 seeds. He had to lose his other seed. So that's why he lost his seed in the swamp. Got that?
Got it.
Okay. It's important that you have it so that you can discuss it with other people that come on. Okay. This is the Anunnaki again. What do we see there? 7. Right? See the 7 branches?
Yes.
3 on one side with the female, 4 on the other side with the male. 2 fruits, the white stone and the red stone. And the one serpent means that this came from the one serpent is always the moon, always the female, or the soul, that matter. And that kind of tells you, by looking at this, what I was telling you about the baby in September is about the matter too. So this is from the Sumerians, and they're talking about the myth of the Anunnaki. And I think that's kind of self-explanatory. 2 stones, the 4 and the 3, the 4 with the man, the 3 with the woman.
There you have it. Yeah.
It's all there. But you have to know, or that would mean nothing to you.
Yeah, and we're gonna probably have to cut it off. We're coming on 2 hours.
Oh, geez,
So,
I didn't know.
Yeah, time flies when we're having fun.
Yeah. I think there isn't too many pictures left.
All right, let's go through them.
Go real fast. Yeah. I'll tell you what it is real fast and say next. Okay.
I think we might have hit it.
Well, it could be the last one. I wanted to kind of finish up with the
I'll
Anunnaki.
get out of this. No,
Okay.
let's see. Oh, there's
Oh,
a few
yeah, there
more.
is. Yeah. Okay. See that forearm cross on his chest?
Yeah.
That's what I was just telling you about. It's where it came from. The stuff up around the left, it's got the 8-pointed star. The V, I think, is the 2 serpents. Then it's the sun and moon. And there's a shell there that has to do with Phi. That other thing, like, tells
Whoops.
his,
Oh, I just took me to the beginning.
yeah.
Yes, share
So
screen.
that's
Yes.
what that one says.
Okay.
Okay. Now down below that, go to the next one down. That one. Okay. You see in the center, there's 16 rays. That below is a flying lion that's all gold with a gold crown.
Right.
So we've seen that before. The 16 is April,
Right, of course.
and the gold lion means that it's like the sun there. Okay, we can go to the next one. There's this carving with 2 eggs that nobody knows what it's about. Well, we make 2 stones with 2 eggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's about. And if you look at these little flowerette sleeve things, there's 7 of them with each one.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking about that last 7 months, 2 stones again. Okay, go to the last one there. Okay, everybody talks about this rose. You see the stem, how it's the forearm, equal arm cross?
Mm-hmm.
Each of the rows of petals have 7. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You see the bees, why the bees are there, and they've got a name for that pin everybody wears, and it's designed after a bee. But what do the bees do? The bees collect essence, right? Well, they're collecting here to make honey. We're collecting all the time from the lights to perfect the matter. And then in the background, that 4-section deal, it's spider webs in there. They use a spider web to imitate the oven. So that's why the spider webs. But that 4 is like the base of the oven, the 4 small pyramids, and the spider web there represents 1 pyramid, but there's really 4 of them. So
Interesting.
that pretty much explains that. So I guess that can be the end. That's the last picture. And I didn't know we were here I thought we
No, it was just
30
time was
minutes.
flying. Time was flying. So, well, as we get to the end, I want to give the audience, you guys in the chat room, hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Is there any last question from anybody?
I see one. Someone wants to know what the name of the picture with Jesus and the 2 angels and soldiers down in the Templar flag is.
I don't know the name of the picture. I see an alchemical picture in a book, and I copy it, because I can explain it. But these pictures, they're just everywhere. Like I said, they're all over Europe, but nothing's ever been explained. Like they say, 1 million people go over to the Notre Dame every year and stare at all those carvings. I said, I got to go over there and put a note under each one, what they mean,
Mm. Well, wonderful. Well, I think we are at the end. This has been very stimulating, very visual, great content. And as mentioned, the audio of after this, of course, it will be recorded on YouTube. I know some of you are late, but it will be up on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing with the visuals, with Al giving his PowerPoint. The audio version will not have visuals, but it will be out in a couple of days. I will add our interview with Al on Jesus, the alchemist, where Al gets a lot more granular on Jesus, the Gnostic Gospels, and we kind of stick around to the Christian age. Great interview. Again, very popular on YouTube and so forth. But I really appreciate those of you in the chat room. I appreciate those who support. You guys make me feel like a natural aeon, and that's a wonderful thing. And I love bringing you this forbidden content every week so we can expand our minds and find our own mysteries, what works for us. But Vance, thanks for keeping us company here as always.
Oh, I'll do anything I can to keep us going. You know that.
Blinded you with alchemy. It's poetry in motion, huh? So awesome.
A lot to take in. I'm less than a beginner on this, so it's almost an introduction.
Yeah. It's the greatest laboratory out there has to be nature. That's pretty much a logical step. So,
well, if you learn this stuff, you can find it everywhere.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you can go walk around Washington, D.C., and you can explain everything that's there. Last thing I wanted to say is I pretty much hang on the forum, the Myths and Links, Michael
Mhm.
Pell's forum. It's a small forum, but I've probably put 100, at least 100 posts on there that explain this kind of this, you know, what it's about.
All right, we'll go
Um,
there and check out. Do you have a website, Al?
yeah, the first mythology, one word.com.
Okay, I'll have that on the show notes. But yeah, firstmythology.com. And if, I'm sure Al will be there to answer your questions because hopefully he'll get to the end of this process. I'm excited. But Al, as always, thanks for coming on Aeon Byte and giving us some great gnosis, some great information on what alchemy truly is.
Well, Miguel, you can't know how much I appreciate you letting me come on. I know everybody that comes on there's got a PhD and they won't even talk to me, but that's okay. I don't mind. But I really do appreciate it. And I know I like to talk to you because you know these things and you
I'm
know
just
that,
like you. I'm just learning and having fun at it, actually.
yeah,
So
well,
if it's not fun, why do it? So
this can explain everything. Maybe
I
one
hope
day
so.
we can make up another 50 pictures and sit and go through them.
There you go. Let's do it in the future and screw those Anunnaki. What do they know?
Yeah,
But
what do they know?
thanks. But thanks, Al. Thanks, everybody who showed up. Thanks for being yourself, your true self. And we are out of here. So hello and goodbye as always.